Broadcasting live from WOUB TV in Athens, this is Newswatch.
Washington County is voting on a levy to change how police can access 911 callers. Good evening, I'm Chelsea Sick. Thanks for joining us. Right now in Washington County, if you call 911 from your cell phone, the police may not know where you are. The sheriff's office is asking residents to pass a levy to implement a next-generation 911 system. Michaela Marshall has this explanation of what the levy would mean for our residents.
I do support 911 is super important because when you need it now.
Rob Gilland is the owner of All Pro Nutrition in Marietta and a former volunteer firefighter. All Pro Nutrition has been open for nearly 18 years, but the shop has gone through multiple fires, floods, and moves. For Gilland, 911 services have been crucial. He even helped put out his neighbor's fire before firefighters could reach the scene.
The building was on fire, and I'm like, oh my God. So that's when I take the phone, I throw it to the employee, I say, call 911.
Washington County Sheriff's Office, Dispatcher Crimes, what is your emergency?
This year, the Washington County Sheriff's Department has added a small property tax levy on the ballot to upgrade the county's current emergency response system.
As it stands now, if you were to dial 911 on your cell phone, there's a chance that your signal could be sent over the river to a different town's cell phone tower before the correct dispatch center can send help your way.
Lieutenant Pat Gerke says that in some cases, it can take up to 30 minutes to find the caller with the current technology.
We've spent considerable amount of time searching for people when all we know is a tower location and maybe a distance from the tower, which we've had them as far as 17,000 feet, which is a long way. So what the new system will give us, though, is that exact GPS location will get us within 5 feet.
Lindsay Joy is a freshman at Marietta College. She was surprised to hear that if she made a cell phone call to 911, the police wouldn't be able to locate her immediately.
It makes me feel nervous because I don't know, if there's something extremely wrong, then they can't find me. They might not find me in time.
A .35 mil levy only costs about $12 a year for the average home valued at $100,000. The next generation 911 system will include text and video messaging capabilities.
It may be a choking victim that needs to text out, I'm choking, and then we've got the location. Or maybe it is a domestic situation that you're not safe to talk at that moment because revealing your location may be dangerous to you at that moment. So those two in themselves, to me, is worth the $1 a month.
Joy, like many of the other residents we talked to, feels the same way.
I think it's a great idea because it increases the safety, and we can't always speak if we need to call 911, and so being able to access our location as soon as we call is very important if we're not conscious to tell them where we are.
However, many voters in Marietta agreed that they didn't know anything about the levy, and that just seeing another tax on the ballot would make them automatically vote no.
Whenever I see another tax, I'm always inclined to say no, just because I don't want to pay more money than what I need to. So they need to be explained that it's for a good cause.
The Washington County Commissioner's Office says the latest the next generation 911 system may be adapted is 2018. Lieutenant Gerke says if the levy doesn't pass, it could lead to job cuts.
If it's a mandated event and it's we're unable to fund it through the current means, is that services elsewhere will have to be cut. Now, I can't say what that might be, but to come up with the amount of money may be a loss of a position at a dispatcher position, which reduces the manpower, which can increase call volume, response time.
Residents like Gilland want to remind you that keeping the community safe is the main priority.
I think definitely the 911 is a good thing, and I think $1 a month is cheap and stuff for what you stand to lose if you don't have a quick response and stuff like that. And that's just dealing with fires. I mean, if you or I was hurt, we would want them to be even faster and stuff. So I think it's an essential source.
For WOUB News, I'm Michaela Marshall.
Thanks, Michaela. Lieutenant Gerke says that upgrading this system not only helps the Washington County Sheriff's Department, but Marietta and Belpre Police and Fire as well. He says last year those three systems handled more than 25,000 calls for service and are on track to take even more this year. The The number of registered voters in Athens County is down from 2012, with 2,500 less people registered to vote in 2016. More than 45,000 people have registered to vote in 2016, down from the nearly 48,000 who registered in 2012, according to the Athens Board of Elections. 10,000 people registered with the Democratic Party and 6,000 registered with the Republicans. Over 28,000 people did not register with any party. Former Athens County Sheriff appeared in court today for an appeal hearing. Pat Kelly is convicted of 18 felonies from theft in office to perjury. Today, Kelly's defense attorney argued there is insufficient evidence to those convictions. Ross County held the court proceedings after 2 judges excused themselves from the case earlier this year. Kelly is currently serving a 7-year sentence. Carnival Foods owner Dan Bay is closing the Lancaster, Circleville, and Heath store locations. Bay says that the closing dates will depend on the amount of merchandise that is left in the stores. The management no longer sees it fit to continue operating the stores when small grocery stores are becoming a thing of the past. There is hope that some of the 250 to 275 employees will find new work with Kroger. Bay has owned the business since 1977.
Good evening and welcome to the Newswatch Weather Center. I'm Ananda Harris. Things may have cooled down a little bit since the beginning of the week, but we were still well above average for today, hitting highs in the upper 60s here in Athens. Right now, looking at the temperatures, we're still pretty mild across the region at 61 degrees in Athens, 57 up in Columbus, and 62 degrees down in Ironton and Ripley. As we go overnight, things will cool down a little bit. We're going to get down to 58 degrees by 8 p.m., 52 by midnight, and 47 degrees by 4 a.m. With those cooling temperatures, we will see any lingering rain move out of the region as we go overnight. Our lows across the region are going to be 45 here in Athens, 46 up in Columbus, and 48 at our warmest point in Ironton. So a little bit cooler than last night, but still a bit on the warm side for this time of year. But we did have a cold front move through earlier today, so things will drop down a bit for the weekend. Over to you, Chelsea.
All right, thanks, Ananda. Bernie Sanders traveled to Youngstown today, campaigning for Clinton. Sanders' speech called the younger generation to action, saying it is important to vote, but to get more involved in politics in the community.
Politics is not just about Election Day. Politics is about building a movement of millions of people, and I suspect that movement will be heavily influenced by the younger generation who have a new vision for America.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump will return to Ohio tomorrow. The rally will be held at Airborne Maintenance and Engineering Services in Wilmington. This is the same day Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton will speak at a free Jay-Z concert at Cleveland State University. With poll numbers being so close, Clinton will return to the state again on Sunday. An Ohio woman is seeking a life sentence instead of death row. The Ohio Supreme Court will hear Donna Roberts' challenge on February 7th. She is being accused of planning her ex-husband's murder with her boyfriend to collect insurance money. This is her second time challenging the court. Nathaniel Jackson, boyfriend of Roberts, is sentenced to death for fatally shooting Roberts' ex-husband at a home in Howland, Trumbull County in 2001. The Supreme Court upheld Jackson's sentence in August. A Columbus man is sentenced to probation after beating his wife's heroin supplier with a baseball bat. Edwin Sabani faced 2 years of probation for felonious assault, dodging a possible 8-year jail sentence. Sabani apologized in court, saying he was protecting his family. Franklin County Judge Charles Schneider believes a reoffense is unlikely and that he has received letters in support of Sabani's action. Ohio University students are joining more than 300 Ohio students leaders to address sexual violence. Higher education officials, national activists, and safety experts are also attending the event in downtown Columbus. The theme of the event is Generation 9, Our Time, Our Power, Our Voices, and is the nation's first statewide collaboration on the issue of sexual violence. The goal is to raise awareness of sexual violence on the campuses of 2- and 4-year colleges. Sewers in 2 West Virginia counties will be receiving over $5 million in federal funding. Jefferson County will receive a $3.6 million loan from the United States Department of Agriculture. Kanawha County will receive nearly $2 million in the form of a loan and grant. The money will go towards improving the Jefferson County sewer system and Kanawha County's wastewater treatment plant. Washington County Board of Elections Director is charged with felony theft on Wednesday. Tara Hupp, who is also the treasurer of Marietta Tigers Booster, admitted to stealing from the club court documents, find numerous checks made out to cash that were endorsed by Hupp, $40,000 in checks total. Hupp used the money to pay her personal bills. She is expected to appear in court within the next 5 to 10 days. Coming up next on Newswatch, Melania Trump gave her first solo appearance on the campaign trail this week, and Bill Clinton had a closed-door meeting in Detroit. Stick around for more on what they said.
University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
Friday nights are all about high school football, but when the games are over and the helmets come off, it's time for some gridiron glory. I'm your host, Danny Dean, back under center. Don't miss a play this season. Join myself and the rest of our team on Friday nights at 11:30 on WOUB, and catch us again on Saturday mornings at 11:30. We are committed to bringing you the stories of players, coaches, and communities, and of course, we can't forget about some highlights. We all know there's nothing better than Friday nights and gridiron glory.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous. Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
My professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open.
You can go to them with pretty much anything.
Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
Donald Trump's wife, Melania, gave her first solo speech since the Republican National Convention this summer. Speaking in suburban Philadelphia today, Melania cast her husband as someone who's in touch with America's working class.
Every time my husband learned of a factory closing in Ohio or North Carolina or here in Pennsylvania, I saw him get very upset. He could see what was happening. He saw the problems. And he always talked about how he could fix them.
Today's speech was the first of what Donald Trump said in an interview with ABC would be 2 or 3 major speeches before the November 8th election. Former President Bill Clinton has a lot of scheduled campaign stops this week, but his stop in Detroit was not announced ahead of time. Trying to rally the African American vote, Clinton had a closed-door meeting with black ministers and Democratic leaders, including the mayor of Detroit. Polls have showed Hillary Clinton with a lead in Michigan, but Trump has not been far behind.
And this is going to help energize people, and so I'm coming here because I want to help make history on November 8th.
And I'm proud to be in the same room with him and just to let the Clinton family know that we support them.
The surprise visit from Bill Clinton comes as members of Donald Trump's family and his running mate make appearances in Detroit and the Detroit suburbs this week. On Wall Street today, stocks were down across the board. Here's a look at some stocks of local interest. Coming up next on Newswatch, swine flu cases are coming up around the country. Is it something we need to be prepared for in Athens? That story's still ahead.
And we had a little taste of summer weather earlier this week, but things are cooling back down and it seems like fall is finally here. Plus, this weekend we may see some sunny skies. All that plus your extended forecast coming up on Newswatch.
Professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open.
You can go to them with pretty much anything.
Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
Ohio University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous. Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
Friday nights are all about high school football, but when the games are over and the helmets come off, it's time for some gridiron glory. I'm your host, Danny Dean, back under center. Don't miss a play this season. Join myself and the rest of our team on Friday nights at 11:30 on WOUB, and catch us again on Saturday mornings at 11:30. We are committed to bringing you the stories of players, coaches, and communities, and of course, we can't forget about some highlights. We all know there's nothing better than Friday nights and gridiron glory.
Welcome back to the Newswatch Weather Center. I'm Ananda Harris. Right now it is 61 degrees in Athens. We were pretty warm today, but things are cooling off a bit. We have some rain that's moving out of the region that came through ahead of a cold front. With that rain, we see humidity at 96% right now, so feeling pretty sticky out there. Across the region, temperatures all in the 50s and 60s right now. 57 up in Columbus, 62 over in New Martinsville, and 62 down south in Ironton and Ripley as well. Looking at our almanac for today, we were once again on the warm side, hitting 68 degrees for our high today, our average being around 61. Our low, though, take a look at that. Really warm, only hitting a low of 61 degrees last night, that normal being 39 degrees, so we are well above average for this time of year. Not to worry though, because a cold front is moving through the region that will drop temperatures down quite a bit for tomorrow. As we go overnight, we see that pushing further south and that rain moving out of our region. And by tomorrow, we'll have high pressure off to our west dominating the region, giving us some nice sunny skies through the weekend. Overnight, we're going to drop down to a low of 45 degrees, so a little bit cooler tonight, but still a little bit above average, and that rain will move out of the region, giving us cloudy skies across the region for tonight. All the lows in the 40s tonight, 46 up in Columbus, and 48 is our warmest point overnight in Ironton. For tomorrow, it'll still be a little bit chilly when you drop those kids off at the bus stop at 45 degrees, so make sure they bundle up a little bit. And we'll have a few clouds in the morning, but as we go through the day, those will clear up, giving us some nice sunshine by 4 p.m. Our high tomorrow in Athens will be 58 degrees, so quite a bit cooler than today. After that cold front has moved through the region, we will have sunny skies though, so a perfect fall day in store for your Friday. Across the region tomorrow, temperatures all in the 50s and 60s, 58 degrees up in Columbus and Newark, and we're going to hit 61 degrees down in Ironton, so a little bit warmer. Looking at our 7-day, after that rain passes through today, we'll have beautiful weather for the next week. Tomorrow is going to be our coolest day at 58 degrees for the high, that low 35 degrees tomorrow night. So you may want to bring some plants in for tomorrow. But as we go through to the weekend, things will heat up a little bit at 62 degrees on Saturday. And then for the beginning of the week, we're going to hit the upper 60s for our highs, with lows only dropping into the mid 40s. So again, a beautiful week ahead for us. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thanks, Ananda. A day at the state fair is supposed to be all about carnival rides, cotton candy, and maybe checking out the animals in the exhibition pens. But CDC researchers say you need to be careful at the fair and pay attention to hygiene, especially if you plan to visit the animals. Kim Hutcherson explains in today's Health Minute.
More than a dozen children came down with swine flu after visiting the pig barns at state fairs. That's according to a report from the CDC. 18 people, 16 of them children, were infected with a type of swine flu not seen before in humans. All of them reported some kind of exposure to pigs at agricultural fairs. 13 said they'd either handled or touched the animals. 1 reported indirect contact, but 4 said they'd simply passed through the exhibit. All of the patients are now fully recovered, and researchers say they've seen no evidence of person-to-person transmission. But they warn that fair organizers should take steps to prevent infections in humans, including having a vet on hand, installing hand-washing stations around the swine exhibit, and limiting the time pigs are at the fairground to 3 days. After petting an animal, children should not be allowed to eat until after they've washed their hands or at least used hand sanitizers. All visitors should avoid putting their hands on their faces or in their mouths while at the fair. Most importantly, experts say everyone 6 months and older should get a yearly flu shot. For today's Health Minute, I'm Kim Hutcherson.
Thanks, Kim. Now over to Duncan for sports.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Duncan Goldberg. If you haven't heard by now, yesterday was a pretty big day in Cleveland. We will talk about what happened and then in an exciting Game 7 World Series matchup between the Indians and the Cubs. Stay tuned for Newswatch and stay tuned as we will go through our public TV schedule.
Friday nights are all about high school football, but when the games are over and the helmets come off, it's time for some gridiron glory. I'm your host, Danny Dean, back under center. Don't miss a play this season. Join myself and the rest of our team on Friday nights at 11:30 on WOUB, and catch us again on Saturday mornings at 11:30. We are committed to bringing you the stories of players, coaches, and communities, and of course, we can't forget about some highlights. We all know there's nothing better than Friday nights and gridiron glory.
Ohio University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
My professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open.
You can go to them with pretty much anything.
Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
Welcome back. I'm Duncan Goldberg. Over the last 108 years, the world has seen many things. It has seen both world wars, it has seen the first African-American elected president, but one thing the world hasn't seen was a World Series championship by the Chicago Cubs. Not until last night. Game 7 between the Cubs and the Indians was the most anticipated game in years, and it didn't disappoint. It was the most watched baseball game in 25 years, with over 40 million viewers tuning in. And it didn't take long for the action to get started. In the first at bat of the game, Cubs leadoff man Dexter Fowler took Indians ace Corey Kluber deep to give the Cubs a 1-0 lead. But in the third inning, the Indians would tie the game back up with a Carlos Santana single that scored Coco Crisp. The next 3 innings didn't go all too well for the Indians, as they would proceed to give up a total of 4 runs and only score 2. But in the 8th, it seemed as if a comeback was in the air, as Jose Ramirez hit a sharp single followed by a Brandon Guyer double that scored Ramirez to make it 6-4, and then a line drive home run shot that rocked Progressive Field and even made LeBron James go nuts. It seemed as if all the momentum was on Cleveland's side, but with Cubs' Jason Hayward on third and 2 outs in the top of the 9th, Francisco Lindor would make a sensational play at short to strand Hayward at third. But in the bottom of the 9th, the Indians weren't able to get a run to win the game, and therefore the game went into extra innings. This is where the Indians lost their momentum and their magic, as the game would head to a short rain delay. In the top of the 10th, World Series MVP Ben Zobrist hit a 1-run double off of Brian Shaw, followed by a 1-run single by Miguel Montero to make the score 8-6. But the Indians would get out of the inning for a second, it seemed as if the Indians would complete yet again another improbable comeback, as Rajai Davis hit a line drive single to score Brandon Guyer to make it 8-7. But it was short-lived, as Indians' Michael Martinez would ground out to Chris Bryant to end the game and give the Cubs their first World Series championship in 108 years. It's only fitting for the Cubs, as 108 is the amount of stitches on a single baseball. Now, moving from the last night's World Series at Progressive Field and crossing the street to Quicken Loans Arena. The Cleveland Cavaliers take on the Boston Celtics tonight at 8 p.m. The Cavs enter tonight's game with a 4-0 record for the first time since 2000, and could have a 5-0 record for only the second time in franchise history. Despite not putting together a full 4-quarter performance yet, the Cavs are still just one of 5 undefeated teams in the NBA. They've been led by the play of who else but LeBron James, who is averaging 9.5 rebounds and assists per game. The Celtics are sitting at 3-1 and look to stay hot despite possibly missing Al Horford and Jay Crowder due to injuries tonight, in what could be a potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup. The early season clash could be pivotal. Moving all the way from Cleveland to Athens, the Ohio Bobcats are playing host to the Buffalo Bulls as we speak. The Bobcats are atop of the MAC East heading into this game and are favored to beat the Bulls by 19.5 points. Right now, it's the end of the first quarter, and the Bobcats are already up 10-0 on the Bulls. Well, here's to you, Ananda, for weather. Thanks.
Thanks, Duncan. Here's a final look at your weather. Overnight, we're going to cool down to 45 degrees, and that rain will move out of the region, leaving us with some clouds through the night. Tomorrow, though, things will get much sunnier in the afternoon with a high of 58 degrees. And that sunshine's gonna stick around for your weekend with some beautiful weather. We're gonna hit a high of 62 degrees on Saturday and 66 on Sunday. So a great weekend to go out and go hiking, maybe at Hocking Hills or somewhere. And then for the beginning of the week, that beautiful weather is going to stick around. Monday, we're going to have a high of 67 degrees, and we're going to stay nice and warm through midweek. Over to you, Chelsea.
All right, thanks, Ananda. And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Chelsea Sick. Stay tuned for PBS News Hour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org. Have a great night.
Friday nights are all about high school football, but when the games are over and the helmets come off, it's time for some gridiron glory. I'm your host, Danny Dean, back under center. Don't miss a play this season. Join myself and the rest of our team on Friday nights at 11:30 on WOUB, and catch us again on Saturday mornings at 11:30. We are committed to bringing you the stories of players, coaches, and communities, and of course, we can't forget about some highlights. We all know there's nothing better than Friday nights and gridiron glory.